The legend of the Deathly Hallows is one of the most well-known stories in the wizarding world. Passed down through generations, it tells the tale of three wizard brothers who encounter death and are each granted a powerful magical artifact: the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak. And what all three of these powerful items have in common is that they are able to perform extraordinary feats far beyond what is typically seen in the wizarding world. The Resurrection Stone is said to be able to bring the dead back to life. The Elder Wand has the ability to conquer all other wands, and the Invisibility Cloak is able to hide whatever or whomever is beneath it, even in circumstances in which typical invisibility charms do not work. Together, these items make up the Deathly Hallows, often represented by a symbol that includes all three. These items do exist, that much can be confirmed, but it's their backstory where things get a little foggy. For starters, the story only gained popularity because it was published by a known author of children's literature, Beedle the Bard. His version of the tale is popular, but like many legends passed down through the ages, it's difficult to know how much of it is fact and how much has been embellished over time. So, how much of this story is true? Was death truly a physical entity who handed out these magical objects, or were the Peveril brothers simply extraordinary wizards that were able to create the Hallows through their own skill and ambition? Pushing the envelope even further, I can't help but wonder if Beedle's version of the story was simply entirely fictionalized. The blurred lines between myth and reality really do leave much to be uncovered, so today we're going to be bringing the truth to light. Hey everyone, welcome to another installment of Harry Potter Theory. Like I mentioned earlier, what we know of the origins of the Deathly Hallows stems from Beedle the Bard's tale of three brothers, a fictionalized story written and published by Beedle in the 15th century. This particular story was part of his collection of fairy tales, aptly titled The Tales of Beedle the Bard. But what's particularly interesting about this is that while many of his works are entirely fictional, this one seems based in truth. We can clearly see in the Harry Potter books that the Hallows mentioned from his story, the Elder Wand, the Resurrection Stone, and the Invisibility Cloak, actually exist. So my question is, just how far from fiction was Beedle's tale? The tale tells the story of three wizard brothers who come across a treacherous river on their travels, and they use their magical abilities to conjure up a bridge, but are confronted by Death, who is unhappy that they have cheated him of his potential victims. Death, under the guise of congratulating them, presents them with gifts. The first brother asks for a wand more powerful than any other. The second asks for a stone that can bring back the dead. And the third asks for a cloak of invisibility that will shield him from Death's gaze. The brothers receive their gifts and go their separate ways, but come to realize that their new powers are not without consequences. The first brother is eventually killed by a thief who steals his all-powerful wand. The second brother, unable to accept the things he can't change, dies after using the stone to bring back his lost love. And the third brother, who uses his cloak to avoid death until old age, leaves the world a peaceful and happy man. At the end of the day, regardless of the decision that the brothers made, or the actions that they took, they ultimately all face death once again. And the way that it's depicted in the story shows them physically encountering the same personification of death when they finally meet their respective fates. If the tale is real, how on earth could Beedle have known about what had happened between Death and the brothers? Beedle asserts that his works are fiction, and there is no other earlier source that depicts the tale of the three brothers or explains the existence of the three Deathly Hallows. Yet, the Hallows genuinely exist, and apparently the brothers exist as well. The theory goes that this tale was based on three actual wizards who lived in medieval times. The Peveril brothers, otherwise known as Antioch, Cadmus, and Ignotus, were wizard brothers that grew up in the town of Godric's Hollow. And interestingly, the Peveril bloodline actually has roots in many of the other wizarding families that we know from the present day, families such as the Potters, the Gaunts, and even the Blacks. The Potters are believed to be descendants of Ignotus Peveril, the brother who received the Invisibility Cloak, and the Gaunts, who are direct descendants of Salazar Slytherin, are also connected to the Peveril family through their ancestor, Cadmus Peveril, the original owner of the Resurrection Stone. By looking at their lineage, we can indeed confirm that these three brothers existed, but the issue now is connecting them back to this particular story. And one major inconsistency here is the timeline. According to historical accounts, Beedle the Bard was born in the 15th century, and it looks like the brothers may have actually been around much sooner. It is worth noting, however, that there seems to be some canon inconsistency with regards to when the Peverils lived. The book Harry Potter Film Wizardry claims that Ignotus Peveril was born in 1214, but this is directly contradicted by J.K. Rowling herself on Pottermore in her article on the Potter family. The wizarding family of Potters descends from the 12th century wizard Linfred of Stinchcombe, a locally well-beloved and eccentric man whose nickname, the Potterer, became corrupted in time to Potter. Linfred's eldest son, Hardwin, married a beautiful young witch by the name of Iolanthe Peveril, who came from the village of Godric's Hollow. She was the granddaughter of Ignotus Peveril. Without specific years, we can deduce the following. Linfred lived in the 12th century, likely from 1115 to 1195. His eldest son, Hardwin, was probably born around 1140. Hardwin's wife, Iolanthe, was born between 1140 and 1160, and what's important to note here is that she was Ignotus Peveril's granddaughter. Assuming each generation spans around 25 years, we can safely assume that Ignotus and his brothers were likely born somewhere between 1090 and 1110, which puts a roughly 3-century gap between Beedle and the three brothers. Bearing this in mind, I find it hard to believe that 3 centuries could go by without their story being told. And if that is the case, where did Beedle get his information from? We know that the brothers existed, that the Hallows existed, and that Beedle published a story. But none of these things line up. In the books, Dumbledore theorizes that it was the Peveril brothers themselves who created the Hallows. So it's true, asked Harry. All of it? The Peveril brothers? Were the three brothers of the tale, said Dumbledore, nodding. Oh yes, I think so. Whether they met death on a lonely road, I think it more likely that the Peveril brothers were simply gifted, dangerous wizards who succeeded in creating those powerful objects. The story of them being Death's own Hallows seems to me the sort of legend that might have sprung up around such creations. But I don't think that was the case, and I say this because I believe these objects would have far preceded the 11th century, the century in which all three were born. Therefore, I think that a physical personification of death did genuinely exist, and did, in some way, shape or form, create these powerful objects. However, I don't think that the Peveril brothers ever had a run-in with him. The brothers were either chosen for Beedle's story because there were 3 of them and 3 famous artifacts, or because via other means, the 3 brothers did inevitably come into possession of these fabled magical artifacts, the latter being more likely, as these artifacts were eventually passed down through the family lineage of each brother. Now you might be asking, why am I sure that the Hallows preceded the brothers? There are a few reasons for this. First of all, each of the Hallows reflects a deep understanding of human nature and the relationship between life and death, concepts far more ancient than any wizard family. The Hallows, in this sense, seem to embody a broader, more universal force, like death itself. It's as if death created them to teach humanity a lesson, just as Beedle's version of the story dictates. Next up, I believe that the Resurrection Stone is actually a piece of the Veil, which would make its origins far more ancient than the Peverils. The Veil is an ancient stone-pointed archway that serves as a barrier between the land of the living and the land of the dead. It's an ancient crumbling relic that no one fully understands, and is the subject of much investigation by the Unspeakables. No one knows who created the Veil, as very little is actually known about it. But I have a theory. Who better to create a barrier between the land of the living and the land of the dead than Death himself? Both objects serve as gateways or barriers between those who are living and dead. The only difference is the achievable level of communication. With the stone, you can generate actual physical shades that you can directly interact with, whereas with the Veil, it has been expressed that you can only hear, if you listen closely, those from the land of the dead. It has also been expressed that you won't be able to communicate back, that is, unless you travel through the veil, reaching the point of no return. As for Beedle's story, well, just because Beedle never actually encountered the Hallows or met the brothers, it certainly doesn't mean he wouldn't be able to weave a tale around them. And taking 3 brothers from one period in history and combining them in a cautionary tale with 3 powerful wizarding artifacts from another part of wizarding history would fulfill Beedle's official claim that his stories are in fact original creations. He simply knew of the artifacts and built a story around them. Who knows what aspects of their lore are based in reality? And that's it for this video. What do you think? Am I onto something here? Let me know down in the comment section below. Until next time, remember, it does not do to dwell on dreams and forget to live